Hi ORL, my name is Michael Bonavita and I am a sophomore RA at BBB in Brockway Hall. And I am going to be answering the 5 questions as part of the individual interview section of the returning RA application. So the first question, why do I want to return to the resident advisor role? Well, it's actually kind of a funny story, I think. I had a lot of hesitations when I first accepted my RA role in BBB. I had my first year experience happen in Flint Hall in the Mount, and I had an amazing residential experience. So I was kind of nervous about going to a new complex to be an RA. I wasn't really comfortable with it. I had been to BBB maybe twice, and when I learned that Brockway was the only room that didn't have a bathroom, I was kind of annoyed. So I had a little bit of hesitation when I was going into the role. But that changed within the first week of training when I really got comfortable with my staff for the first time. I have had such an incredible experience being on the BBB staff, both with my fellow new RAs. There are a few of us as sophomores who are coming into the position for the first time, and with such an amazing, amazing staff of returning RAs who have really been there to support us and help us throughout the whole process. I know I've made some of truly my best friends at college just being on the staff over the last semester, and I really hope that I can have an experience like that next year as well on a potential staff, whether it's in this building or in another building. I think that ORL brings together a lot of people who wouldn't really cross paths if it weren't for the RA position, and I'm really looking to meet new people that way because in my circle, I'm a single major in Newhouse. I don't really know a lot of people academically outside of my major, and I have very specific social groups that I fly in with the activities that I do. So it's really given me the opportunity to meet a lot of new people, and beyond that, being able to provide mentorship to first year students has been such an important part of the role for me. I really was a little nervous about being such of an age gap with me and my residents. There's not one at all. I'm 6 months older than most of my residents, and some of my residents are even older than me. But I really have been able to foster an amazing community in Brockway. Being far away from the different parts of the complex, we've really been able to develop this really close bond, and that's really strengthened as every month goes by of the year, and I hope that I can bring that to a new community next year. I think my greatest success within the RA role has been making the most of where I am, because being in Brockway, it presents a lot of challenges. Like I said, being separated from BBB and from other first year students, my students could, have the potential to act out more because they're on their own, they feel isolated, but I've really taken it in stride and created a community where everyone feels comfortable around each other. So we really have a great day every day. We try our best, and when we are having trouble, we come to each other. And that goes both ways. And I think that that's been my greatest success, and I hope to continue that on whatever staff I continue on. How would my strengths be utilized in an upper division community? I don't really know for certain. I think I would be able to figure it out if I was placed in an upper division residence hall. I think I'm good at keeping my distance when I have to. So I know that, especially in upper division residence halls, residents a lot of the times don't want to have such a strong relationship with their RA, and I think I would be able to respect that distance while still keeping critical relationships and being able to oversee them and being able to handle tasks and be a good mentor still while maintaining that respectful distance. But I think in a first year community, I really am a good catalyst for fostering community. I've really strengthened that this year, and I knew that before, but I've really become more confident in myself and my abilities to really create an amazing first year experience for students. I think part of the RA position that I like the most is the mentorship aspect. So I'm able to answer questions when people have them, and I'm able to lend my advice when people are looking for it because they are looking up to me in so many different areas, and I'm really able to help them, and that's been such a great part of the role for me. I think in a mixed community, I would be able to really work on both of those skills. I think that while keeping a critical distance, while also being able to foster a strong community is so important, and I think that I could really do that successfully in a mixed population community as well. How do I prefer to receive support and feedback from my supervisors? Well, I like direct communication. Sometimes it's not the best thing to hear, if you're doing a job that isn't quite as good as you could, but I think that direct communication is super important. I know I'm really close with my senior staff now, and when, they're not satisfied with something, they have no problem telling me, hey, Michael, you could have done this better. Why don't you think about redoing this? Or why don't you think about doing this bulletin board more creatively? Or, you really, could have done this program a little more effectively. But I think not skirting around it and directly saying that has been a really great way to receive feedback from my supervisors. And when I, give feedback and support to my supervisors, I keep it real as well. I say, this didn't really work for me, and what can we do to kind of rectify the situation and make it better? So I'm all about direct communication, and I think that would carry over to whatever staff I'm on. But being on the BBB staff and being so close with my senior staff, I'm really comfortable, saying what's on my mind in a respectful way and getting things accomplished. So for question 4, you'll be experiencing a new academic year as a returning RA. And, I know changes are inevitable, and this could mean a new supervisor, new staff, and new programming expectations. I think that for me, big changes are hard. I know stepping into the RA role from being just a first year student was a big adjustment, and I had a lot of trouble with it at times in the fall semester. But I really worked on strategies for stress management and dealing with change that really helped me. And I think the best thing I could do with a new senior staff with new expectations would be right off the bat to express my likes and dislikes with my senior staff. Say what I like, what works for me, what learning style is best for me, and what doesn't work. Because, as I said earlier, direct communication being so important to me, I really value being able to say what's on my mind in a respectful way. And I think that would be the best way to kind of manage this change. I could also talk about what's making me nervous. So when I get really nervous in situations, I like to talk it over with people, whether it be the other people on my staff or senior staff. So in dealing with this change, I think it would be important to say, hey, this is a change for me and this does make me a little uncomfortable, but I'm ready to tackle it if we can just work together and make it a mutually positive relationship. And I think that's such an important part of a staff is that, you're able to talk about what makes you nervous and you're not bottling up what makes you uncomfortable. So I think that's another method that I would use to manage the change. And lastly, I think, not everything has to change. No matter where you go, you can take with you skills that you learned from the year before. So I know this year I learned a lot of conflict management skills, a lot of skills that are different in Brockway than are required in the other, halls in BBB that may be more specific, but I can take those skills and bring them somewhere else. So even in my theater organization, things that we've done there, like icebreakers and stress management activities, I've brought them to my floor in Brockway, and they've been really successful. So I think that it would be, it wouldn't really work to say you're going to start brand new, fresh on everything. You really bring in a lot of different aspects with you, and I think that's really important. And what methods of communication do I use with residents whose opinions that differ from my own? Well, I think, that's really part of life, is dealing with people who have different values than you and dealing with different identities and dealing with different walks of life. And there are a lot of ways to go about it in a way that's respectful, but that you still understand that we do have differences, because, the last thing that I would ever do in a situation is go along with something that I wasn't comfortable with. So, I would say, hey, like, this isn't really my view, but I'd love to hear what you think about it. And if you want to talk to me, let's do it in a respectful way. And I think that I've done a pretty good job of that this year. I learned a lot this year about things about issues that I wasn't even aware of before, about things that, because of my privileges and, the privileged identities that I hold, I've been able to really, skirt away from my whole life. But this year, I really addressed them head on, and I got to not only explain why things were different in my head, but also got to rectify these situations with others. And I got to say, well, look, why don't you look at it this way, or why don't you look at it this way? And I've gotten to both, better myself that way. And I think I've, developed stronger relationships with my staff and the people around me because of this communication style. So I think that wherever I go, I can really take that with me and make it a positive experience. So just because you have differing views doesn't mean your relationship can't be respectful. It can't be positive. It doesn't mean you can't be friends. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I'm really interested in politics, and I was spending a little time on YouTube when I was avoiding homework, and I was looking at videos of the Supreme Court justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia. They had totally different views on everything, but they were still best friends that went to the opera together, that went on vacation together. And it really showed to me that even in the highest court in the land, so even in huge positions of power, you can still communicate effectively and be friends with people who have differing opinions. So I think that it's really important to go into things with an open mind. And that's all for my individual interview.